Okay, so we're gonna work on project 3. I'm going to get you started, write some code, show you how to do stuff, answer questions. Party central, right? Okay, so I have the Word document open right here, so we're gonna go through the requirements a little bit. I also have a folder somewhere. Lots of things open, but I created a folder on my desktop called Project 3. This is where I put everything. If you remember from our last meeting, I told you to download all the files and put them in this folder, which I did. Now, I'm going to show you really quickly on video what I mean by when I want you to extract the image folders. So if you take the zip file, click extract, extract all, it gives you this default location. I want to take this last images off. Oops, where'd it go? And then hit extract. And when I do that, it puts it in the same folder as book test, see images, create negative image. Yes.
It's just open the file, highlight it, and drag it.
You can do that too. You can open the file and drag them, but if you want to use the extract tool, that's a quick and dirty way to do it. Several ways to do it. My goal is for the pictures and these Python files to show up in the same level to make it your life easier when we start importing the files into our project. If I did not do this and I had another folder called images, then every time I called a picture, I'd have to put images / picture name. So anyway, just to make your life easier, I went ahead and opened up a couple of these. So book test is this really short program that takes the Infinity War picture from here and reads it in, creates an image for it. Creates a new image that's empty, that is this, the same width and height as the image that we read in from the file. So we have a blank canvas to draw on. Yes. Can't see that. Make that bigger. Good. Thank you. So what this is doing is img is a variable that's going to hold the picture we read in from our file. New image is going to be a blank picture that is going to be the same width and height as our picture we read in from the file. It gives us some place to copy to without messing up our original picture. Just a good idea in case you need the original picture back. Unless you write to the file, you should not actually permanently change the original in your folder. And I didn't teach you how to write to a file, so you'd have to go and do some research to figure out how to screw that up at this point.
You do it.
I'm absolutely sure you can do it, but hopefully I have limited your knowledge to where you won't accidentally do this. If you want to save some of your pictures, please go look that up, save your pictures, but be aware if you use the exact same name, you will overwrite the original picture and have to re-download it, all that stuff. So if we're looking at this piece of code, we know we have an image, we have a new image, we have a window to draw the image in. And then we have a for loop or a nested set of for loops that does something to the original image and puts it into the new image. Right? So what is it doing? Well, in this particular case, it's negating the picture because it's taking the total amount of red possible and subtracting the current red. Doing that for blue and it's doing it for green. So that gives us the negative in the image. So if we run this right now, it should briefly display the original picture and then flip over pretty quickly because it's fast and display the new image, because at the bottom, we're displaying the new image. And we're doing it in the same window, so it's a really quick flash of the first one, and then it's going to go to the second one. Fingers crossed that I copied and pasted all of this correctly. If not, we had to fix it, right? Look at there. So did you see the quick flash? So the original picture was there for just a few seconds. That's how quickly the processor in my machine went to every pixel in the original picture, got the colors out, did the math, put the new colors into the new picture, and then printed it. It's fast. Fast. So much faster than you having to write all that code one line at a time, right? So anyway, this is what a negated picture kind of looks like. It's not exactly the same as what a negative for film would look like, but it does what we're looking for. Now, does that give you an idea of what this project's going to be doing moving forward? Okay, cool. So let's go look at our problem. Let's go look at our project specifications real quick. And let's make this a little bigger for the people in the back can see too. That might be too much. Can you read that in the back? Cool. All right, so the objective is for you to design algorithms and implement them, define and call a function, and use iterative incremental development and composition when writing an application, which means do a little piece, get it working, do a little more, get that working. Don't try to write it all in one big go and have 15,000 error messages. The project is broken into 3 parts. Part 1 is 74 points. Part 2 and 3 are worth 14 and 12 points respectively. So theoretically, if you do all of part 1, which we're going to go over a big chunk of today, you'll get 74 points. Part 2, in my opinion, is not that hard. So I think that you all are very capable of getting 88 points without breaking too much of a sweat. Part 3 is absolutely the most difficult part. It does require you to do more thinking and more critical analysis than the other 2. Do not start part 3 until you have the majority or all of part 2 working. If your part 2 sort of works, stay there until it does work. Because if I grade it and your part 2 doesn't have enough points, I'm not even going to look at part 3 because you shouldn't have gotten that far. Does that make sense? This is me trying to get you to slow down and do the parts that I know you can do and get as many points there as possible. Because I have had quite a few things turned in where people have rushed it. I'm guessing they're waiting till the last minute to start projects and try to do it all in one sitting, and they're missing simple points. All right, so do not share your code with each other. That doesn't mean that you can't say, hey, I've got an error message on this line. Do you see what I did wrong? You absolutely can help your buddy out or your neighbor out and say, oh, you left the colon off that line, put it in. That's fine. No copying and pasting of code. Don't put your files on a thumb drive and hand them to somebody else. Don't email your files to somebody else. You're going, why are you telling me this? We all know that. I've had it happen before. And I've actually had people turn in projects that they got from their friend and forget to take their friend's name out of the comment line. Desperate people do desperate things. Don't be a desperate person, because if you're the person that gave them the file, you're just as guilty as the person that turned in something that wasn't their work, and you both get zeros. And you both get reported for academic dishonesty. which can get you suspended from school. So we have some requirements. I told you to download those files. You've done it, hopefully by now. It's in the resources. We're going to take one of those files. It says Moodle there. It should say course stem. Sorry. Thought I caught all those. I swear. Moodle just is haunting me. So we're going to take those files from the resources. We're going to take one of them and we're going to start from there. And you can either copy and paste the code from there into a brand new file with your name on it, or you can change the file name. I'm going to copy and paste because it's just cleaner to me. And it makes sure that I have it in case I need to go back to it. I still have that file. But if you do need that file or any of these files again, you can always re-download them from the resource tab. It will be there for the remainder of the semester. So the first part, we're going to do a red, green, and blue color wash on an image. Well, we're going to copy and paste the negate into our file. We're going to have a negate available to you. And we're going to look at that and use that to judge how we're going to go to color wash. Does that make sense? So I'm going to get my idle back open over here. And I'm going to start a new file. And I'm also going to find where I have negate. Okay, so I have this negate file, or this Python file. This one has a load and process image function. It has a negate negative image, and it has main in it. The other one I showed you was just the code for negate. I'm going to copy all of this because I'm going to have to load and process images throughout this. So why not go ahead and use code that's already been written for me? I happily have given you code to start from. The only thing I don't like about this particular file, because I didn't write it, I did get it from someone, another professor, is that the main's at the bottom. I always like my main at the top. So I probably, when I copy and paste it, will move main to the top. You do not have to. You can have your main at the bottom, but don't forget to use main and only have one. So I'm going to grab this entire thing, import statement and all, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste it. And like I said, I like mine to be at the top, so I'm going to put my main up here. And this is purely a Tracy Wilson style issue. Other professors will have different styles. Do remember you have to follow style formats for whatever professor you're with. We do have some standard ones throughout the department when you get into the Java classes, and they have a check style file and stuff. But for this class, you're using mine. I won't grade you down for your main not being at the top. I will grade you down if you use more than one main. Yes.
Just to take those two, that is requirement.
The load and process and the create negative image.
Yeah.
You will need create negative image for sure. Load and process, I can't remember if that was a requirement or not.
But seeing references to it, but I don't see a specific.
Let
That's what I'm asking.
me see.
I see number two, it's a test function of one.
Well, it does say to use this as a starting point, this particular file. So if you don't have it, this it does it specifically same way. And you can do that. The only thing you're going to be required to have create washed image. That you have to have. You have to have. Nope, you do have to have it because it says so right here. Load and process. And there's a method to my madness. I'm thinking about it. Could you do it without it? Probably, but if you do it this way, the directions for the rest of the sections will make more sense. Because at some point you're going to have to change your code over to where you're not specifically telling it which picture to use. So you're going to ask the user to input the pictures and name and stuff. So there's a method of my madness. You're going to need it for other parts, I think.
So you did start off with the modular version.
Honestly, when I graded it from the perspective of I hope you're finished with all of it. Do not turn this into different parts. So once you start modifying, I'll never know if you did it exactly right from the beginning. Just to, if I look at it, and go, oh, you got through part 2, then I'm going to assume that you did all of part 1 and you wrote over some of it. No, so yeah. You have more coding experience than some of the other students. End result is where I'm going on this. I'm going to be honest with you. I'll just be honest with the whole class. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run your code. And if it runs clean and it does everything I ask it to do, it's going to get a brief glance of, oh, yeah, there's that function I need, there's that function I need, there's that function I need. It's not all one long string of code. And I'm going to move on. If it has a problem, or it doesn't run correctly, then I'm going to step back and I'm going to go into your code and I'm going to spend more time in there trying to figure out where you went wrong, because I'm going to give you as much points as possible. And I'll give you some useful feedback. So if it's running 100% correctly, the code itself is probably going to get a quick glance, because there's nothing for me to fix, theoretically. Now, if my quick glance goes, oh, there's 3 mains in here, then I'm going to talk to you for that. But I used to tell people that I would just run them and see if they ran, but then I figured out that people didn't follow directions. And I had to go back to so the more that works, the less time I spend with your code. Honestly. So please, everyone try something that works perfectly, because it grades so much faster. And we're at the point now that I'm hoping that you all have the basic concepts. I'm hoping I'm not spending a lot of time fixing things like, oh, they didn't put a semicolon here and they turned it in with a red compile error. And I do say in a lot of my assignments that I'm not grading it if it doesn't compile. But so far, I haven't been able to actually live up to that standard, because I feel bad not giving you a grade for at least what you turned in. So I'm really bad about going in and fixing whatever compile thing was the problem. Now, if you have 15 compilers, I give up after a certain point. But if it's like one thing where right before you turned it in, you accidentally hit the enter key in the middle of a sentence, I fix that. If you left off a colon on a loop or a function name, I fix that. Because it happens, you'll be sitting there and you go, oh, this is ready to turn in, and you don't realize that you've accidentally set your hand on the keyboard. Or in my case, while I was getting my grad degree, one of my toddlers ran by and, touched something. So one mistake, I'll fix. Couple mistakes, I'll fix. Much more than that, I'm going to send you a nasty little remark that says, this didn't compile, it had way too many mistakes in it. And then if I'm in a charitable mood, I'll say, please resubmit. And give you a very short deadline to resubmit, so you can't go and redo it. By the end of the day, give me a working file. So anyway, sorry, off track. His fault, he distracted me. All right, so we want to add something. Let's first, we want to run what we have, make sure it works. That's the way to test and make sure that what we just copied and pasted works the way we expect it to. Right? So let's do that. And then we're going to write our first function for create a color wash. And I'm going to write the whole thing with you for one color. And then you have to figure out the other colors. Right? Seems fair. All right, so let's go back to our pie file. And I haven't saved it yet, so I need to save it. And I want to make sure that I'm in the project 3 folder with the other things and our pictures, right? You're not going to see the pictures from idle because idle only shows you the PI files. So if you see these other PI files, you know you're in the right folder. All right, so let's run it. Okay, so it's working. All right, let me run it again and tell you why I keep getting that error message. So we have an close on click. And if I don't click on the picture to close it, the program thinks it's still running because it's waiting on me to click the picture. The reason the close on click is there is that it was not, it would automatically instantly close and you would never see what you did. And you're gonna go, why is this not running? Well, it is, but it did it so fast you didn't actually see. So that's the reason we put the close on click line when we're drawing our pictures. That way it waits on you to close it and you can look at it and see what you did wrong or right or be impressed and show your friends and family. I do have a suggestion for any of you that have children and decide you want to run this on some pictures you have at home. Do not negate your child. It is the creepiest pictures you will ever have if you negate your
I never would have done that.
I had to go to a workshop way back in the day when I first started teaching high school, probably, well, Connor's 20 and he was an infant at the time. So about 20 years ago. And they said, bring some photos with you. They didn't say what we were going to do with them, but bring some photos with you. We're going to use them and teach you some things that you can do with your students. Great. Well, as a new parent, guess what all my current photos on my phone and everything else are? They're of the baby. They're like, yeah, negate that picture. Never negate a picture of your child. Unless you like scary horror movie kind of things. It's unattractive. That being said, you can use your own photos, just put them in that folder. And I'm going to be honest with you, by the time I've graded 3 or 4 of these, I'm using the barn and the moon to test because they're the shortest names there. And I misspell Infinity War more often than I care to say. So in this particular case, it's hard-coded right now to Infinity War. We're going to change that later, or you're going to change that later to where the user is going to be able to tell you which picture they want to use and what process they want to do. Right? All right. So this does negate. So let's add a function called create wash image that will take an image and a color as parameters. The color will be a string and it will then create and return an image that is that color washed in that specific color. The only valid colors to wash the image in for this part will be red, green, and blue. So you're going to have 3 functions. No, I'm sorry. You have one function that's going to have 3 options inside of it. When we have options, what data structure are we using? Come on. Or logical structure do we use if we have an option the computer has to pick from? The if-else clause, right? So we're going to have one of those in addition to our nested loops. And yeah, it was on the bottom. You can read the bottom line. So you need an if-else statement here. So we're going to come over here in mine, and we're going to define this function. I think that's what it said today meant. Yeah. All right. And it needs a color let me get some light lines in here where we can move up the screen. A color and an image, right? Now in this, it has the image first, then the color. And so I'm going to go back and fix mine so that it works. So could I have done it the other way around? Yes, as long as you remember that the first parameter was the color and the second parameter was image, but to be consistent with the directions, I'll do it this way. So the parameter variable names don't really matter. I'm calling it image and color because that makes sense, because we need an image and we need color. You can call it the image, you can call it a image, you can call it Bob. Please use something useful though. Something to do with an image. Or a picture. You can call it a picture. We'll cover that. And then we're coming in here and we need an if statement. If color, I'm going to do a color. Right. If color is equal to red. Oops. I want to do something. We're going to come back to this do something quote. So else if color is equal to green. Right? Still going to do something. Now, I could go else here because the only other option is blue. Or I can use an else if and check for blue. Either way will work at this point. I will tell you that part 2 adds more colors, so I'm just going to go ahead and do else if, or I could just keep adding. But that's because I read through and know part 2 is going to do more colors later. All right, so what is the something going to be? So let's go back and look at negate. Okay. Well, one thing we haven't done that we need to do is we need to create the new image for it to draw into. So we can just copy and paste that line into our function. I'm going to tell you you're going to need that pretty much in every function. So just be aware that you need to create a blank canvas to work with. So I'm going to grab that. And because I know that the professor grades me for comments, I'm going to go ahead and copy the comment too, where, you know, it looks like I got more comments in there and everything looks good, right? Yeah. You know, I might also put comment in here. It says part 1 color, just to make it easier for me to figure out where I'm going. So I got our new image. I'm looking at this, so I need to be able to loop through all of my pixels and get a pixel out. For negate, we were doing some math where we were getting the red and subtracting it from 255 and doing that for the green and the blue also. But if I just want the picture to be in one color tones only, what do you think the logic for this would be?
To strip the other colors. Just set the other colors to 0.
You want to keep the reds. Don't really want to change those. But I want to set the other 2 colors, blue and green, to 0. So I'm still going to get the red out. And I'm still going to create a new blue and a new green. Just have different values. So, I'm lazy. The new red is going to be the same as the old red. The new green is going to be different, and the new blue is going to be different, right? Right? What is new green and new blue going to be? Don't make it harder than it is.
0.
0. Number log 0, because we don't want any green or blue in our red washed image, right? Right. So let's test this much and see if it works, right? I'm going to comment this line out and this line out because I want to just test to see if this much works. I need this. I'm going to comment. No, in here. The loading process, do the negative image. So I'm going to comment the negative out because we're not doing negative right now. So now I want to do red image equals create wash image. IMG is the picture we created in this function, so that goes there. And then in here, I'm going to put red in quotes because it needs to be a string. And then I'm going to do red image dot draw. Don't forget to draw the image after you create it, or you'll be going, it didn't do anything. Well, it did, it just didn't draw it. So let's run it real quick and see if it works. No, it didn't. I have, well, it happens. So on line 42, it has a problem. Okay, so let's go to line 42 and see what the problem is. Remember, if you go to options, you can show line numbers. Line 42, right here. Oh, it's because this one calls it the image and I called it image and I copied and pasted. So if I change this to the image, it'll fix everything because now my copy paste matches my new function. This is the problem with copy paste. You have to make sure your variables all match all the way through. All right, let's run it again and see if I can figure it. See if that's the only problem I had. Not the only problem I had. So now I have another problem. Yeah. None. I really, really, really don't like this. So we're going to go none type object. Okay. See if I can make this window smaller. I can't. So it doesn't like 18. Okay, let's go back to line 18.
You scroll down a little, show the wash page. Scroll a little more, and then invitation comes.
Oh, I forgot the return statement. It's gonna be one of those days all day long. You do have to actually return the image you created. So it couldn't draw it because it didn't have it. You see, I'm proving to you that even old programmers forget the simplest thing.
But if you know how to read the red, find out what's going on.
That's true. So let's talk about that a little bit. If you get these trace back errors, they are kind of in gibberish or techno speak or something. Call it whatever you will. It's not straightforward English. always start at the bottom and read up. The error you're usually looking for is the last one. The line number will narrow it in for you. It's not always exactly on that line, but it's usually on that line or the line immediately above it. Now, when I read this, I had a none type with draw. I didn't really know what none type meant, but there was something wrong with draw on line 18. So I went back and looked at it. What does draw do? It takes an image and puts it into the window. So that makes me think that something was wrong with the image. So that's why I went back to see if I actually returned the image. Otherwise, it's trying to draw an empty variable. Does that make sense? Now, this one, when I looked at it and it said attribute image, object has no attribute, empty image. I looked at this line right here and it says image, and then I went over here, and oh, this is the image. And that says image. Those don't match. Let me go figure out what I did wrong. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. No, the error messages are not great. They're not very helpful. You will get better at deciphering what they mean. It says string and int in the line. It means that you probably tried to print out an integer and you needed to convert it to a string, or you tried to do math on a string and it couldn't do it. So just start looking for key things that ping to you.
For the error itself at the bottom, the non-type, if that was gonna help us totally different, it's gonna help you find it, if you use Google, what a non-type error is.
You can.
I know it would give you all the different.
You absolutely can take the error message in Google and it'll help narrow it down. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it gives you more information overload. None type tells me this says none, and it's got something to do with type. I probably have an empty variables. And that's just years of experience.
You say that, it makes sense to say that.
But yeah, just reading it cold, it probably doesn't make
The
sense.
next one.
So, but every time you get one of these and you figure it out, the next time you get it, it'll be a little bit quicker figuring it out because you've seen it before. So let's try it one more time with all the pieces in it. Oh, look, now my picture's red. Right? It worked. Oh, you haven't seen ominous yet. So guess what? If I do all of that again, and instead of get red, I make that 0 and I do then I want to undo my comment, and I'm going to undo this comment, and I'm going to paste again. And I'm going to take that 0, and now I want to do the blue. And I'm gonna just for testing purposes, gonna leave the variable names alone, and I'm only gonna change the string down here. You're gonna clean this up better when you turn it in, right? But I want to see if green works. Oops, screwed up the indents. That's a very common thing. Probably done down here too. That looks closer to right. Let's see. Oh, look, now it's green. Right? And if I go back to my code and I change that word to blue, now it's blue. Very dark, very blue. Because blue and black are most very dark colors and very.
Show me the gray wash image.
I sure can. I can't show you the whole thing because it all runs off the screen, but that gives you the first. Okay. So does this help?
Yeah,
Does it help a lot?
it will.
So somebody that has the part one open, read through part one. What else is left for part one? You don't have the Word document open?
No.
You got it?
Still
What else do I need to do for part one?
prompting for the-
So guess what? You now have to build out something that prompts for the name of the image and prompts for the color. You have been writing input prompts since what, week 2? Yeah. So guess what? I'm not helping you do that. Oh, I'm so sorry. This is a major project. I'm not helping you do that. So are you finished looking at this? I'll come help you in just a second. I'm gonna, scroll up. What are we looking for? Oh, you need to scroll up. I scrolled down. Gotcha. So load and process image takes a file name. So I will give you this hint. Your prompt for the image is going to be up here, right? Because it takes a file name. Your prompt for the color is going to be in load and process because you need the color after you've already got the image, right? Right. And your prompts, by the time you get through with 3, your prompts are going to be pretty long because I need you to do the user a favor, and it's just good practice. When you ask the user to input a file name, if you want to limit their file name, you need to, in parentheses or something, say, please choose from Barn, Moon, Infinity War, whatever. Makes it more usable that way. They also then can copy your spelling and make sure that they're spelling it exactly the same way. For those of us that don't spell well. When you ask for colors, you need to give them the options for colors. When you're finished with this entire project, you will have about 6 colors you can choose from. Your user can choose negate, they can choose black and white, they can choose red, green, blue, I want to say magenta, cyan, and yellow. And then there's going to also be the option of doing the Simon game in the third part. So your prompts are going to get long and detailed as you go through. Your if statements are going to become varied and assorted, right? Because at some point you're going to have to change up what you're doing, where if they give you a color, it calls create washed, but if they give you black and white, it calls black and white. So you're going to have more than one if statement. And I'm overwhelming you with information right now, aren't I? You don't want me to tell you this until you get to it.
What was that?
Huh? Probably so. Okay, so let's stop. So it is, the clock says 3:15, but it's actually 4:15. I'm going to stick around for 15 or so minutes helping you with individual problems thus far. If you haven't got green, blue, or red wash to work and you have an individual question for me, now's the time to stay and get it. If you're online and you're watching the videos, email them to me. I will be here tomorrow unless y'all tell me you're not coming. Okay, he's coming. So I'll be here tomorrow to help you with anything else. Next week in class, I will make a video on Tuesday of me helping you walk through but not write code for part 2. I'll do some more discussion and talking about it. After that video, there won't be any like open lectures for the rest of this project, but you're welcome to send me emails or come to class in person and ask me questions about them up until the due date. The following week, I will spend time working on project 4 for those people that need to complete it to help their grade. Or just want to complete it because they're interested. So there will be a video on project 4 that very last week of class. Questions? Anything for the greater good of the entire class? Yes, sir.
So, is it like extra credit?
In a way, if you do it, it will replace the lowest grade you have for project 1 or 2. If you did well on project 1 or project 2, then there's really not a reason to do it. I just have quite a few students who didn't turn one of those in, and this is their redemption. I'm not replacing project 3 because project 3 is of a different magnitude. This, and if you have 100 on all those, no, I'm not going to give you more points. So, Now, I might be convinced if you do project 4 and you miss some labs, could be talked into substituting project 4 for a chapter's worth of labs that you're missing. I hadn't thought about that till just now, but if that's of interest to some of you, like you did really horrible on the school bus, or you did really horrible on some random chapter, labs for the books, then if you do it, send me an email, say, I'd like to substitute this for a lab. If it's better, I'll substitute it for you, because that seems fair. That way, if you've been doing everything you should be doing, you just had a bad day, you get a chance for redemption too, not just the people that didn't turn something in. Does that seem fair?
Sure.
Okay. Alrighty, I'm going to stop the video now unless you have something else for greater good of everybody.